Hey there and welcome to the channel. You may recognize this setup right here from my Twitch. You can follow me over there on The Light in My Man Cave. Excuse the self-plug real fast. I have the sign turned off because I'm not actually doing The Light in My Man Cave, so I figure I should have the sign turned off. But if this setup is a little dark, I feel like it might be, let us know and I will figure something out to backlight it next one. So if you watched my Hero of Ages video this last Friday, then you know I kind of thought up the idea, and I thought it would be fun to do a quick tier ranking of the prose in Brandon Sanderson's books. So I want to say very clearly I am a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson. I have read everything he's ever written, with the exception of Children of the Nameless. So obviously I'm not talking crap or anything here. I love his writing, I love his books, I love his worlds, and I love his characters. All that being said, he is not particularly known for his line writing, also known as prose. He's described his own prose as serving the function of nothing more than a window for the reader into the story, whereas another author like Patrick Rothfuss or Tolkien or several others, their prose are themselves one of the core selling points of the writing, of the book. And so I thought it would be a fun idea, especially because, I hate to break it to you, his prose writing is not that great in his early career, but by the end of it, by the present day, I should say, I certainly hope it's not the end of his career, by the present day, it is vastly improved. So I figured we'd do a tier ranking real fast. I've got these lined up mostly sort of in chronological order, except by series. So obviously he did Elantris first, and then he did the Mistborn trilogy, and interspersed throughout that he did the Alcatraz books, which have lasted until the present day. And we've got Warbreaker. I couldn't remember off the top of my head exactly when Legion first came out. I might have been after Way of Kings. And then I definitely put this backwards here. I know Way of Kings came out before Alloy of Law. And then he's got the Rhythmatist, Steelheart, Skyward. So we're just going to kind of go mostly in order, but I clumped all these series together. We're going to start out with Elantris, and I hate to do it. It's got to go in C tier. It might even drop down to D tier, but most of these early books are unfortunately going to be C tier. I actually think that, well, Ascension does peak up into B tier, and I'd even put Hero of Ages right behind it. I'm going to go ahead and put Alcatraz up in A tier. Now, I know a lot of Brandon Sanderson fans haven't read Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. It's definitely one of the least popular, probably the least popular thing he's ever written, that series. I'm going to put it in A tier here. And I might get a little bit of flack for that, but I think that it has particularly tight prose for this point in his career. The Scrivener's Bones, I'm going to put... Let's put that behind Evil Librarians. And we'll go ahead and put the Knights of Cristelia is actually going to drop down to... We're going to put it behind Hero of Ages in B tier. So the Scrivener's Bones is another one. I'm going to go ahead and put it ahead of the Hero of Ages. It's actually one of my very favorite in the Alcatraz series. And if you haven't read Alcatraz, but you are a Wheel of Time fan, there is a joke in Scrivener's Bones, which came out, I think, after Towers of Midnight, that made me full-on belly laugh. And it's a Wheel of Time joke. So, I would definitely check it out. The Dark Talent, I'm going to go ahead and put right here. So, Warbreaker is one that's going right there to top of A tier. I definitely think it's some of his better writing. And fight me. Like, it's just some of his best line writing of all of his books. Also, I want to clarify real fast, this is not my ranking of the books. This is my ranking of what I think of their prose. I would have a very different, Well of Ascension, if you watched the review for that one, is hands down, like, probably my number. It's definitely in my top 5 for all of Brandon Sanderson's books. And it would probably be an S tier. And Mistborn would be an A, Hero of Ages would be an A. But we're not looking at his character work, we're not looking at his world building, we're not looking at his magic or any of that. We're looking simply at the quality of the line writing. So, going on from there. So, Stephen Legion, The Many Lives of Stephen Leeds. So, I should do some clarification here. You can see I left off all of his short fiction, and I've only included full-length novels here. I did debate back and forth on whether or not to include The Wheel of Time, but I decided also that I wasn't going to include any of his co-authored books, so I left that out. That means Emperor's Soul is gone. Emperor's Soul would be top of S tier if it was on this list. The Many Lives of Stephen Leeds is, when all 3 are taken together, the size of a full-length novel, so I went ahead and threw it on here. The issue with Legion being on this list, I think the first Legion book gets a little bit... I like it a lot more than most people do. The second one, I would put not quite as good as the first one, and then the third one, I would say the writing is the strongest in that one, but I don't necessarily like the plot as much as either of the first two. So, I'm going to go ahead and drop it right here to C tier. Also, if I haven't said it, this is just judging Brandon against Brandon. This is not judging Brandon against anybody else. And so me putting these lower down on the list, that doesn't mean that I think that they're badly written. They're badly written for Brandon. And only Brandon. We're going to go ahead and toss Alloy of Law right up here, right behind Warbreaker. I feel pretty confident with that. And Shadows of Self is going to be our first S tier. It was between the publication of Well of Ascension and Shadows of Self. Well of Ascension was my favorite Brandon Sanderson that whole time, until Shadows of Self. I don't know if I would still put... I don't know that I, to this day, have a favorite Brandon Sanderson. I think at this point, they're all my favorites. But for quite a while after the publication of Shadows of Self, that was my favorite Brandon Sanderson. And I do think that his line writing is exceptional in that book. And as well, I'm going to go ahead and put Bands of Mourning. We're going to go ahead and put it ahead of these Alcatraz ones. We might even drop the Scrivener's Bones down into B tier. Way of Kings. I'm going to go ahead and put it comfortably. No, these... Let's shuffle these a little bit. I'd even say that. Yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and put it in that order. We're gonna stick with that for now. I think I'm gonna drop Knights of Crystalia down. Words of Radiance for line writing. I think we gotta drop Scrivener's Bones as well. It's supposed to be a bell curve, right? Oathbringer. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. He's gonna go right up there into S tier. Some of his best prose work he's ever done. I don't think I'm rocking the boat at all with that one. And then we've got... I've only read this one once. It's actually one of the few Brandon... Actually... I just realized that every book down here at the bottom, I've only read one time. Every book up here, I've read multiple times. So that's kind of funny. Let's see. It's better than Scrivener's Bones, for sure. Yeah, we're going to put it... No, it's even better than Way of Kings. Actually, no, I feel like Rhythm of War has some highs and lows. Way of Kings doesn't go as high, but it's more consistently written throughout. So I'm going to put it above Words of Rhythm of War, and I'm gonna stand to that one. Also, we're gonna keep dropping these down because it is supposed to be a bell curve. And you know what? I think Legion needs to drop down to D tier, unfortunately. The Rhythmatist. We're gonna put the Rhythmatist. We're gonna put it here, but we're gonna move the Knights of Crystallia over there. Steelheart is actually very tightly written. I would put it at the top of B tier. Firefight is going in D tier. I'm sorry. I did not like that book whatsoever. I remember Firefight actually caused some issues for me with Brandon Sanderson's YA novels. When I read it, I was like, wow, I didn't like that book at all. And I read Calamity when it came out, but because of how much I disliked Starfight, or Firefight, I didn't read Skyward or Starsight until about 6 months before Cytonic came out. I was wrong to do that, but it kind of turned me off of Brandon's YA writing. I do think the Calamity is better than that. I'm going to go ahead and put it at the bottom of C tier. Actually, I'm going to put it just above the Knights of Crystallia. Skyward is also going in S tier, and you can fight me on that one. That is one of his best written, not only is that novel just in general very tight and very well paced and plotted and all of that, and it's an extremely emotionally harrowing journey. I also do think, actually I'm even going to put it above Oathbringer. I think the line writing that he has on display here is better than Yeah, I'm going to have to stand by those. Warbreaker is a little bit out of place here. It's the most colorfully written of all of his books. No pun intended. But I'm going to leave it there. It stands out in a lot of ways. And obviously a lot of this is very pedantic. And obviously a lot of this is just pure objectively personal opinion. But I thought it was a fun idea. We're going to go ahead and put Starsight. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and toss it down. Scrivener's Bones deserves to be there. I actually think I'm going to have to... Did I mix up? Yeah, I did. I thought that one's Scrivener's Bones. Cytonic is going to come up here. I feel comfortable tacking it onto the very end of A tier. Now, we have Way of Kings Prime, kind of the bonus book here. Way of Kings Prime. I think it's better than these two. The funny thing here is that it is a very... The criticisms that Brandon has shared about this book, there's definitely some legitimacy to them. A lot of people haven't read it, obviously, but it does have plotting issues and pacing issues. I don't actually think that it has particularly horrible prose. And I'm going to go ahead and put it above Mistborn. I did even consider putting it up here in this row. I think I might shuffle these around a little bit. No, Dark Talent goes above the Rhythmatist. Well, these Alcatraz books, I love them. I'm nostalgic for them. Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarians was actually the first Brandon Sanderson I ever read. But the more books that I put onto the tiers, the more I had to drop them, because realistically, they're not his best writing. You know what? I'm even gonna switch the Shattered Lens and the Evil Librarians. Yeah, they just trended down throughout the whole tier ranking as I did that. So there you go. I definitely hope nobody misinterprets this as me hating on Brandon Sanderson. I love Brandon Sanderson. I always will read his books and reread his books, and that's kind of where the inspiration for this video came from, because he does a really good job of accomplishing exactly what he wants with his prose. They're a window to the story, and they don't really get in the way. They're not something you even really notice when you're reading Brandon Sanderson, unless you've read some of his books over a dozen times, like I have, and you start to notice them a little bit more. And so that's kind of where I came up with the idea for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you all with the next review. Have a good one.